Joining us right now to weigh in, national spokesperson for America First Action, former spokesperson for the Donald Trump presidential campaign, Katrina Pierson. Katrina, thanks very much for weighing in. You're somebody who obviously worked closely on the campaign. What did you make of these charges? Tell us what your experience can educate us about this.
Well, I think we've been saying all along that there is no Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. I think these charges are something that came from things that happened years ago, prior to the president even meeting Manafort for the campaign. So I think this is just indicative of where this investigation is going. They're not really looking at Russia hacking anymore. They're not really looking for collusion anymore. Now I think they're just trying to make it more broad. But you know what's interesting about this is this investigation, ironically, is leading everyone to the Democrats. And I think that's what's going to get interesting moving forward.
Jason, how do you see this? Let's get your take on all of this. I mean, these charges of money laundering, tax fraud do date back before Manafort worked for the president, correct?
Yeah, and they're serious charges, and if there was wrongdoing, they should be prosecuted.
Right.
I have no problem with that. But I do think the news about the dossier and the funding of the dossier, FBI has told Speaker Ryan that they would get the banking documents this week. I think those are due to actually come to the committee tomorrow. That will tell a lot about who is funding what and how. That is going to be a pivotal point in all this. And I do think one of the biggest pieces of news yesterday was Tony Podesta stepping down from the Podesta Group. That is a seismic shift in Washington, D.C., knowing what a power player he is in D.C.
Yeah, exactly. But all of this about Paul Manafort and Gates is sort of taking the oxygen out of the room for all of these important other issues as well. Do you think any of this is going to push the Department of Justice to do its job?
I hope so. I mean, I find it interesting that you have all of these scandals from the Clinton-Obama era. The IRS scandal, Benghazi, Fast and Furious. They were handing out, immunity like candy, and here they're doing indictments. Now, that's fine, but there doesn't seem to be, is there a different set of rules for Clintons here around the line?
Of course there is. We see that over and over again, don't we, Dagan?
We absolutely do, but I think that you saw the move yesterday with Tony Podesta, the brother of John Podesta, who ran Hillary Clinton's campaign. The Podesta Group disclosed work for a think tank that was linked to the pro-Russia party in Ukraine. Now it's in the spotlight. And in the indictment of Manafort and Gates, it lists two companies that the two former, that Manafort and Gates allegedly solicited to lobby on behalf of this pro-Russia party, one of those being the Podesta Group.
And one Mercury.
Right, and according to the published reports out there. So I think that if the special counsel focuses on everything to do with Russia trying to manipulate the our election in this country, well, it should include the link between the Russians, Fusion GPS, that firm, and the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign. If it does include that, then I think that the American people can rest assured. But so far, this is an investigation that is largely focused on alleged collusion by the Trump campaign, which again, doesn't anybody know the Martha Stewart rule? George Papadopoulos was pleaded guilty to lying to investigators. If the FBI comes a calling, don't say anything. Right. And it's the same thing with Manafort. At least one of the charges is related to lying to investigators.
Yeah. Mitch?
No, I go back to what you started with, Maria, which is the timing is not convenient, and it's going to suck a lot of the oxygen out. We've got to get a tax plan through by something voted on by Thanksgiving, and this is just going to distract everybody.
But all of this, Katrina, I mean, you have to wonder, a lot of it is going back to a situation when Mueller was running the FBI. I mean, I just asked Jason, will the Department of Justice do its job? Can they be effective with all of the conflicts surrounding Mueller?
Well, I think at this point, Maria, they really don't have a choice. When I came to D.C., a friend of mine told me, you don't go to D.C. to change it. You go to D.C. to expose it, and then the people will change it. And I think there's one thing that President Trump has been very successful in doing, along with being a candidate Trump, is exposing a number of things that have been happening in the swamp, which is exactly why people have wanted to drain it. And now that this has been exposed, you see all of the slimy politics involved. You see all of the lobbying and how they skirt the rules and how this Podesta Group just recently filed its FARA registration. People see what's going on. They don't like it. They don't have a choice but to investigate it. And now when we get to the Podesta Group, as Jason said, Tony stepped down. This is huge because they brought in Manafort to help a foreign government lobby Congress. This is a very big deal. They can't just blow past it. And now it looks like the swamp is about to drain itself.
Podesta's main job was to lobby against sanctions against Russia and Ukraine. And there's no discussion whatsoever, and yet we're still talking about collusion with Trump. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, they put the Donald Trump Jr. on the cover of Time magazine saying red-handed, and then we come to find out that the DNC, Hillary Clinton's campaign, and now we find out that the White House, President Obama's Obama for America, they put money into this dossier, more than $10 million, and everybody's walking around there saying, well, I don't remember this. Did anybody? Who authorized that?
And they're not telling the truth either. Trey Gowdy can't get answers either in his active investigation.
Remember when they brought all the intelligence officials, they went to President-elect Donald Trump, they went to the President of the United States, Barack Obama, they went before the Senate committee, and they all talked about this dossier and how important it was, but they failed to mention that it was funded by the Democrats. And if they had said Hillary Clinton was behind the funding of it, do you think anybody would have taken it seriously? No.
And it was all largely written off, as fabricated.
Yes.
This is my personal takeaway from yesterday. Now I know why you don't work in Washington anymore.
Me too.
Because it's just ooze and sleaze. It's everybody.
How could you have stayed there when you weren't actually seeing an honest broker look at situations that were really happening?
Congress has been asking for months for the documents, basic documents, banking documents. Who funded this? And how much did the FBI rely on this to get Mueller in place, do all of these other investigations?
So there's a real question, which is the question we were asking yesterday. How much evidence from the dossier, this fabricated report, how much did they base that on the idea to wiretap Trump Tower?
Well, I think, and this is where Trey Gowdy has been really pushing the envelope, saying, give us the banking records, and how much vetting did you do? Did you go out and actually question and replicate what was there? We paid billions of dollars to have the best intelligence agencies on the planet, and you've got some person in Europe who's being paid some $10+ million coming up with stuff that our people are looking around saying, we don't know if it's true or not. Come on, it doesn't pass the basic sniff test here.
One thing I want to point out in the Wall Street Journal editorial page today, that when they discuss the Manafort indictment, is that they call out the Trump campaign for hiring what they describe as a swamp denizen like Manafort in the first place. Donald Trump is poor. The main charge against Donald Trump is his poor judgment for hiring the notorious Beltway operator. I think that is caution to the Trump administration now to not make any more mistakes. And firing the special prosecutor would fall into that category.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Katrina, final word from you real quick.
Well, there hasn't really been any intention on firing Mueller. And, this is someone who you've already also mentioned that was actually the FBI director when all of the notorious things that Hillary Clinton was doing with her pay-to-play action while she was Secretary of State.
Exactly.
He stacked this investigation with DNC donors, and it's leading them all right back to themselves.
Yeah. Katrina, thank you very much. Katrina Pierson joining us there.